All right. All right. Good afternoon, everybody. I see that we have a good number of people who are joining, so that's a good thing. Um, we're talking about critical questions for inspiring classroom excellence, and I could also add the words school-wide excellence. So what I want to do, because our time is going to be short today, let me bring up the PowerPoint and let's dive into it. There we go. Let me can turn that all the way down since you leave. Thanks. So, critical questions for inspiring classroom excellence, and the key word is the word inspiring. And with that, I'm asking the question: in what ways does my practice, looking at it self-reflectively, in what ways does my practice inspire classroom excellence? And I want you to just kind of look within yourselves. And I'm asking you this question not only generically, but I'm asking you this question in the context of functioning within a global pandemic. So here we are. The world has shifted. The world has changed. Young people have changed. The world has changed. So now, I listened to just the various different narratives from a variety of different educators about the new challenges with dealing with young people in so many cases. Young people who had not been in a building, a school building, in 2 years in a lot of cases. Some were there hybrid, but in terms of everybody being back. And just listening to the stories of the lack of social, just social adaptation to the times that we're in right now, and the lack of maturation of young people, social maturation between 2 years ago, early 2020 to now, going into being into this new school year 21-22. So I say to educators all the time that I understand, I can relate to it. However, many of us, what we're doing, we're trying to use the strategies that we used back in early 2020, 2019, 2018, et cetera, all the way going back as far back as one goes. We're trying to use some of those strategies that we embraced that were effective for us in this new age. And that's not always going to work, because again, it's a new age, it's a new time, it's new circumstances, and quite frankly, it's a new child in so many cases. A child that had been sitting behind a computer for 2 years, and no real guarantee that it was a child in all cases that was attentive while behind that computer. Some of those children were not even in the room, right? As we've learned over time, their names were just in a box as I'm looking at your names right now. So there's so much to consider in terms of how you and I make shifts, how you and I make pivots, how you and I adapt to the present environment that we find ourselves in now, toward continuing to be effective in the classroom. But toward being effective in the classroom, in order for a youngster to receive whatever it is that you're presenting, just like in anything we do in life, you watch something on television, you could turn it on, but in order for it to hold your attention, something about it has to inspire you to want to remain focused. You turn on some music, the radio, you go to a sporting event, you go to a concert, you go anywhere, you're around people. And if there's nothing stimulating in the discussion, matter of fact, let me be transparent and add me. I'm the presenter, and the only person I see is me. So now, as the presenter, if there's nothing engaging, if there's nothing stimulating about anything that I say, then I don't have your attention. If there's nothing inspiring about anything that I say, if I'm not speaking to your world, if I'm not speaking to your needs, if I'm not speaking to your interests, then you don't hear me. Well, it's the same thing in a classroom. If you're not speaking to the world of that student, if you're not presenting or teaching to the world of that student, chances are that that student doesn't hear you, quote unquote, hear you. So how do I craft lessons? How do I present myself? How do I position myself? How do I package myself in a way that I inspire classroom excellence? See, that matters. So therefore, the underlying overarching question for this presentation is, in what ways does my practice inspire classroom excellence? I say to leaders, in what ways does your leadership inspire school-wide excellence? See, and I don't know if there are leaders on the call. I'm going to assume that there are. So now, so now you look at it at the school level. In fact, we can go beyond the school level. We can go to the district level. So the superintendent, the assistant superintendent, and directors, this is applicable for them as well. In what ways does my practice inspire district excellence? In what way does my practice, in what way does my leadership inspire school-wide excellence? So that's each of the individuals looking within themselves, looking at themselves and asking, what is it about me? But more so, what is it about my leadership? So now we go to the classroom and we're asking the same question. What is it about me? What is it about my practices? What is it about my presence in the classroom that inspires a youngster to want to move from point A, the proverbial point A, where we stand right now in real time, to point B, that place where we want to get to? See, what is it about me that inspires? So let's keep that word in mind. That's sort of my overarching question and word as we go through this hour. So I put a mirror on the screen quickly to say that everything that I want to do today, I want to keep it self-reflective. I want you to just think about you as we move on. Think about who you are in that classroom. Think about who you are if you're in a leadership capacity. But everything that we discuss, or everything that I say, and if you put some things in the chat, I will go to it and read it as I proceed. But just look at you and think about who you are as we move forward. So I'm gonna get out of this and I'm gonna scroll up, because I'm gonna skip a whole lot, and go right here. So toward inspiring classroom excellence, it's interesting how I put this presentation together. It's based on a book I wrote called The Teacher 50, Critical Questions for Inspiring Classroom Excellence. Same subtitle as the title of this presentation. And the book is broken up into 10 chapters, and the presentation is broken up into 10 sections. It would probably take me a bit more than a week to cover everything that I could cover in this presentation if I did it in its fullness. But I broke it up into these categories, and the category titles or topics alone evoke a lot of discussion. So I'm going to try to force myself not to do too much elaborating on these subtitles that I want to show you, but I think the subtitles are relevant to our time together this afternoon. So the first one, what drives my practice as a classroom teacher? Now, as I proceed on, once I get to the meat of the presentation, I guess I could call it, that will be my topic, that one section. What drives my practice as a classroom teacher? But right now, while I'm in subtopic mode, I still want to pose the question to you. I got the mirror up. I left my actual mirror on the other side, so I'm not going to run and get it. I'll just use my hand as the mirror, right? And I'm asking you, what drives your practice as a teacher? Consider pre-pandemic, consider midst of a pandemic. You know, some people use this word, they say post-pandemic. I don't know what world they live in. We're in it, right? So pre-pandemic, midst of a pandemic, right? What drives your practice as a teacher, right? What's that thing that keeps you encouraged, that thing that keeps you inspired to want to continue to do this work? What's driving that? For me, it really started many years ago as a first year classroom teacher, fifth grade, New York City, Brooklyn, the borough of Brooklyn, New York. And just reflecting deeply and intently on my own upbringing and a mom struggling to raise a Black boy, single parent household, so single-handedly. And fast forward, becoming a teacher, I said, I want to assist these mothers around the world. In my case, in my classroom, of the students in my classroom, I want to assist them, particularly with the boys, because that's where that's one of the biggest challenges in education. The challenge and the crisis of the Black male learner. I said, I want to prove what these boys can accomplish. I want to prove what they're capable of achieving. So that became what drove me. That was in 1988. It drove me for the next 10 years. In 1998, when I become a principal, it's still driving me, but it has intensified because now I have a building. So from 1998 to 2011, as a principal, this is what's driving me. I'm going to build young men, because I'm working in districts that are predominant, some districts which were all Black and others which were predominantly Black, with also a Latino population, so Black and brown students. And not to imply I neglected my young ladies, but again, based on data, I said, man, these boys, I gotta hit them in a special way. So that drove my practice. It was the alarm clock that woke me in the morning, not the physical clock. Just knowing I get another opportunity. I get a new opportunity every day to step back into my why, to step back into my voice, to step back into my purpose, my reason, my because. See, so that was all I needed to awaken me every morning. But then, by the same token, I'm asking you, I want you to feel free to just drop it right into the chat. What drives your practice? What's driving you? What's that thing? And let me tell you what I don't mean. I don't mean that urge to make a difference generically. Period. I don't mean that. I don't mean that urge to make an impact generically. Period. I don't mean that love and passion of children generically. Period. I don't mean that. What I do mean is getting out your shovel and digging deeper, finding that deeper, more specific, something that's unique unto you, reason as to what drives your practice as a teacher. Because when you find that, because sometimes we don't even know what it is, we just get up in the morning and go. But when you find that thing, whatever it is, it tends to be that source of inspiration. Because, you know, we're talking about critical questions toward inspiring classroom excellence. So that thing that drives you tends to be that thing that inspires what it is you're trying to accomplish. So in me being that guy that was focused on these young men, that tended to inspire the work exponentially. And it had an effect on the young people themselves where they felt inspired. And again, that's not to imply I neglected my young ladies. I'm just talking about that why right now, that thing that drives my practice. So, hey, somebody, now I know I'm talking to 178 folks on the, or 176. Where's that thought from somebody? I got nothing here. What drives your practice as a teacher? What drives your practice as a leader? Number two, how do I keep my students enthusiastic about learning? and again, these are subtopics, and I probably shouldn't be elaborating as much as I am thus far. But the subtopics, you know, there's a lot of substance to them. Somebody just left me something. Having the power to help prepare my students to be better equipped to handle the real world on their own, right? And you know, Brittany, the word that really stands out for me, you said the power, having the power to help prepare my students. So in other words, it's like, what if I'm interpreting this correctly, it's let me be you for a second. It's not just me, but it's this element that comes along with me, meaning this power to be able to go in there and help or assist or effectuate change toward preparing my students to be better equipped to handle the real world. And then you drove it home, on their own. Man, I love it. I love it. Brittany came back and said, in a way that is meaningful to them. You know, and I'm on topic, but I love when people write in chat. I won't get to all of them if you guys start coming at me heavy, but I'll get to the ones I can, because I want to make sure I stay true to the presentation. But I'm gonna say this to you. You know, when Brittany said in a way that's meaningful to them, and then yes, you know, it makes me think about my definition of success. And I don't know if there are folks out there that know my work or not. You know, what do I know? Right? We haven't had a conversation. But if there is, then that means that there are folks out there that know that I kind of like creating definitions of things. You know, that's just something that I do. So the word success, there's a zillion different ways that we can interpret the word success, you know, based on the number of people in a space, or the various different definitions that you would find if you Google it or looked it up in a dictionary, you know, all that kind of thing. But I always say, when I'm working with young people, I say, look, I got a definition for you. Let me see if you can embrace this. And I say to them, success is the ability to live one's own life on one's own terms, right? Let me give that to you again. Success is the ability to live one's own life, live one's own life on one's own terms. So when I saw what Brittany McKenna wrote in a way that is meaningful to them, that's my definition, because we're talking about on one's own terms. So what success for me in terms of my definition of success may not be yours, may not be yours, may not be yours. So I don't want to dictate what success is. I just want to give someone the parameter of, but I can live my life according to how I want to live it. Right? Assuming we mean something positive, right? So in a way, to use Brittany's language, in a way that's meaningful to them, right? So I love that good stuff, Kathleen. Caitlin said, helping students embrace the difference in themselves and others, right? And then let me read this last one. It's a little long, and then I'm gonna go back. Sir, how can you apply this to someone who works in the school but is not a teacher or an administrator? I know what drives me personally, but I'm not a teacher. How can I dig into what my inspiration in this outreach role? You know, I'm glad you wrote that, because none of this is applicable to solely a teacher. So Charity, you look at what you do, and then the same principles apply, right? So whatever your capacity, and even if you're not working directly with students, but whomever you're working with, what is it about your practice that keeps them inspired, right? That they want more out of whatever it is you do, your leadership, your teaching, your coaching, whatever. So instead of the word students, how do I keep my students enthusiastic? It would be, how do I keep whomever? Because as a leader of men and women, one has to know how to keep the people that you lead enthusiastic about following or working with you. So that's how you would take that. Good stuff, good stuff. Let me keep going. Number 3, is my classroom's climate and culture consistent with what I conceptualized it to be prior to the first day of school? Now, obviously, I'm talking to someone in the school again, talking to someone in the classroom, and I'll say this. Thank you for that, Charity. I'll say this to you. We all, I think with most things in life, we preconceptualize what we expect, right? Like the first thing on my mind, I'm on a Zoom call with you all. I preconceptualize what this would be. I preconceptualize who I would be by way of my planning. I didn't just kind of walk over to my desk and start winging it. I prepared myself. And when you saw me escape and then skip to some other pages, that's part of my preparation because I'm not following a sequence. So I preconceptualize what this would be, and then I proceeded on, but I also preconceptualize what the experience would be for my audience. Of course, I'm not in the space with you, but I know how I want it to be received. But now look at the wording of the question. Is my classroom's climate and culture consistent with what I conceptualized it to be prior to the first day of school? So in other words, using the analogy that I just drew, is now that I'm in the presentation, is it consistent with what I conceptualized prior to? See, that's the question. So I think that with most things that we do in life, we anticipate, we preconceptualize before it actually happens. I was watching a report on ESPN a few minutes ago, and a football player for the Las Vegas Raiders was cut from his team because he got in his automobile and drove intoxicated and killed somebody, right? So it's certainly an extreme example, but it's pretty much the last thing I saw before I got on the computer. So it's here. So here, I don't think when he got into his car, he preconceptualized any of that scenario, particularly killing somebody, taking somebody's life because of your bad, and I'll use an unprofessional word, stupid decision. Right? I don't think that he had preconceptualized that this is the turn my life will take when I worked all my life to become a professional football player. Now I've lost that. I've probably lost it for life, and I probably spend a good chunk of the rest of the next several years behind bars in a jail cell. Right? So we preconceptualize something, and now is the reality consistent with the prior thought, right? And of course, the best scenario is when we preconceptualize, but the reality is better. The reality is a better situation than what we had imagined that it would be. So let's tie that. Let's go right back to the classroom or the school or the district. Is my classroom's climate and culture consistent with what I conceptualized it would be prior to the first day of school? So we know if we imagine this climate and culture that work for us, the culture works, which gives youngsters a vehicle to have a willingness to achieve at the highest level. A climate that's conducive to youngsters feeling good, special in the classroom. And then the reality is, everything we conceptualize, the reality is the antithesis, right? Well, then now we know we got work to do. Because what we thought we had, we have the opposite. And now we've got so much work to do to bring it to where we need it to be. These are subtopics, y'all. So imagine, because they're subtopics, there's a whole lot of meat within each of them. But there's substance in the subtopics, and that's why I wanted to share them with you. Number 4, do the relationships in my classroom allow my students to be or to feel emotionally safe and secure? Right? Do the relationships in my classroom allow my students to be or to feel, I add those words, emotionally safe and secure? So in other words, and you guys feel free to screenshot these as I put them down, or wait for me to fill the whole screen up. I'm gonna fill it to the bottom. Let me holler at a teacher that's on here right now. Can I be me in my classroom? Do I have the permission to be me? Whatever that means. Because being me may be very different from you being you, right? So do I have the permission from my teacher, my peers, to be myself? Or do I have to conform? Do I have to be what you expect me to be? That's a major question for you and I to grapple with. Over the years, I wrestled with uniform policies. I wrestled with it because I understood the rationale to having students in uniforms, particularly in environments that I worked in, urban schools. I wrestled with it and never instituted. I had uniforms 1 or 2 years when I was a principal, when I was a brand new, spanking new principal, because the school I inherited, I was the AP the year before, and the principal was big on uniforms. So I did, I didn't feel I was in position to come in and abruptly change things when I had never led a school in my life. So I said, let me maintain the status quo until I get a feel for the building, and then I'll start making some decisions. I think that's good leadership, as opposed to I know nothing, I'm a rookie, I'm raw, I'm green. And now I come in there and I abruptly change things, but have no track record of leadership. So I just went on and adhered to what was already in place, and the kids came to school in uniform. But for me personally, I found it problematic because I didn't want the kids in uniform. I wanted them to be able to express their individuality. Although, and here's the wrestling part, I understood the rationale, because there could be conflict with youngsters wearing what they want, because some kids can afford what others cannot. So I understand that. It becomes competition and all that. I understand it. But at the end of the day, I decided that I just wanted youngsters to be dressed according to our district's policy on dress code, as opposed to putting them in a uniform. So I disbanded that. So now let's go back to the question. Do the relationships in my classroom allow my students to be and feel emotionally safe and secure? Can I be me? Can I wear what I wear? Can I look the way I look? Can I speak the way I speak? Can I have the demeanor that I have? Can I have the posture that I have? Can I have the temperament and disposition that I have without ridicule, condemnation, critique from others in that classroom, whether it be teacher or peers? And I'm gonna tell you something. I had to grow into that. I had to grow, because there were certain things in grad school that they didn't teach us about leadership. And one of the things they didn't teach us in grad school about leadership was what I just referred to, right? And me being a principal at the middle school level to start with in 1998, school, and I hope I can broach this topic without somebody misconstruing where I'm going, but I'm going to do it. Grad school did not prepare me for a 6th, 7th, 8th grade LGBTQ female community. I hope you guys can handle that. You know, in education, we got to be able to keep it real, because if we go around faking it, then we're not having a real conversation. Grad school didn't prepare me for children that young in the LGBTQ community and the conflicts that arose with it. See, I was accustomed to little young kids, boyfriend, girlfriend, at least that's what they thought they were. But when it became girl to girl, nothing in life prepared me for that. So my own personal values kicked in the values I had at that time. Let's go back to my question. Do the relationships in my classroom allow my students to be emotionally or feel emotionally safe and secure? I had to evolve, folks. I had to grow, folks. I had to read, folks, because everybody in the building wasn't Principal Kafele. Each person had their own individuality, and I had to learn it. I had to study. I had to mature. I had to grow. And as I did, man, that made that building so much more emotionally safe and secure for everybody in the building, right? To this day, I thank in my mind and my spirit those youngsters back in 98, seventh graders primarily, that enlightened me, right? Not enlighten me, not convince me so much that seventh graders need to be so engrossed in relationships. I don't want you to misinterpret that either. I still struggle with my 22-year-old daughter dating, right? So I don't want to give that impression. I'm talking about just in terms of LGBTQ community and what that means, right? That's what I mean. The age, that's a little bit of a different story, right? So I had to grow. I had to understand and get to a level of appreciation for people who were not like me, right? I hope that makes sense. Talk to me in the chat if any of that resonated with you, or you need whatever, just drop it in the chat. Patricia said, as a teacher in my institution, do I have permission to be me? And that's the question. Can I be me? Let me give you another example, because we're talking about the classroom, but I like, my style of speaking. For those of you that may not know my work, those of you that know my work, I'm filled with stories and illustrations, but those that don't know may not understand that about me. And you're looking for me to just put facts on the screen. And that's not what I do. Right. But I've been a public speaker for 35 years. And I guess you could say for 34 of those years, I wore a tie to speak 100% of the time. I wore a tie. And then something funny happened when I turned 60, right? When I turned 60. So I guess we could say 33 years, 33, 30, somewhere between 33, 34. I said, why am I wearing these ties? I don't like ties. I'm not turned on by ties. Some people are turned on by ties, the design of the tie, bow tie, necktie, whatever it is. I said, ties don't mean anything to me. But I'm wearing them to conform to other people's expectations. So in order for me to feel emotionally safe and secure in a speaking environment, I have to wear a tie or people may look at me funny. When I turned 60, I said, man, later for these ties. I haven't had a tie around my neck. I'm 61 now. You see the balloons back here. I haven't taken them down. I turned 61 October 22nd. And my son got these for me. And it's a nice look in the camera, right? So I kept them up. But I haven't worn a tie since I turned 60. And it's because I said, why am I wearing something that I don't like, but I'm wearing it for audiences? I said, let me be me and feel good about being me. I hope I'm making sense to you, because we're comparing a 61-year-old man to a 7-year-old child, a 9-year-old child, a 13-year-old child, a 15-year-old child sitting in a classroom. And can I be me? With the focus being on my academic, social, and emotional growth and development, and not my teacher and my peers getting wrapped up into what I look like. See, can I be me without an audience becoming fixated on what I look like? Can we stay focused on the message? See, so that's what I mean by number 3. Man, I'm elaborating on these subtopics more than I want to, but I'm making them relevant. Number 5. Are my instructional strategies conducive to my students having a willingness to soar? Let's look at that again. Are my instructional strategies conducive to my students having a willingness, that's the key word there, to soar? In other words, what I'm asking you, I know you all, oops, should have turned that off earlier. We got it. Let me turn my volume down. All right. So what I'm asking you, what I'm stating to you, I know you've all heard of what's called culturally relevant pedagogy, right? Culturally relevant pedagogy. I know you're all familiar with that. And when we talk about culturally relevant pedagogy, we're saying a pedagogy that considers who's in the classroom, period. So in other words, instead of a generic approach to instruction, treating them all if they were all the same, they had the same experiences with life, the same reality, the same challenges, the same obstacles, the same needs, the same interests, the same goals, the same aspirations, the same pressures, the same demands, the same way of learning, the same way of making sense out of information, the same way of processing information, the same way of being motivated, the same way of being captivated, the same way of being inspired. If we assume that all of those variables were that everyone's the same, and then we gave the children the same instructional strategies, we're going to have a lot of failing students in that classroom, y'all. There's nothing inspiring about being subjected to instruction where everybody's getting the same thing at the same time, at the same rate, because young people learn differently. Going back to the preceding about the emotionally safe and secure, there's nothing inspiring about being in a classroom where I feel emotionally unsafe and insecure. There's nothing inspiring about that. See, so I want to make sure that what's happening in that classroom is inspiring excellence. So when we talk about instructional strategies that are culturally relevant and relations with students that are culturally responsive, oh man, we're talking about a classroom where there's a higher probability that young people will feel inspired. We're talking about a school led by leadership where young people feel inspired, because we have not boxed them all into one and said, we're all this, you're all the same. I'm going to throw this lesson at you. And it becomes incumbent upon you to embrace it, to internalize it, to take ownership of it, to learn it, to study it, and come back to school ready to be successful with it. It's just not the real world, y'all. It's not the real world, because everybody doesn't learn the same. Everybody doesn't see the same thing. I did, you know, I had a wonderful exchange with an individual yesterday. I spoke in on location. I was in I wasn't in Indiana. That was Saturday. I was in Illinois yesterday, and I did a keynote address. And after the keynote, I did a breakout session. So the folks, while they were trickling into the breakout session, and one of the people that was in the keynote, he said, "Principal Kafele, can I talk to you for a minute?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Principal Kafele, your delivery, man, it was outstanding." And he kept going on about my delivery. He never talked about the content. So he said, your delivery, he said, the way you use words, the way you present the words, the way you use your space in the room, the way you pause, your voice inflection, you know, all this stuff. He said it was outstanding. And then so then when he told me what he does for a living, then I began to understand where he's coming from. He said, He said, I'm a theater person. I teach performing arts. I look at the world differently. I look at the world through the lens of a performing artist. He says, so when I listened to your presentation, yes, I heard your content, but my focus was on how you were delivering it, the theater, so to speak, of how you were delivering your content. I said, oh. He said, now watch this, folks, because this ties into that bullet point. He said, because of the way you delivered it, I got it. But had you delivered it differently, I may not have received it the same way. So I'm very conscious of not only my content, but the way I deliver that content as I am today. But this person, to make the point, he said, I understood everything about you and your content because of the way you presented it to us. So in other words, I'm quite certain. Now watch this. I was loud and animated yesterday. I guess I'm somewhat loud and animated right now. And I know that everybody's not willing to receive that. Some people don't want loud, especially at 8 o'clock in the morning, right? Some people don't want animated. Some people would like me to be very stuffy and to speak to them like this and be very conscious of how the words are pronounced or enunciated and so on and so now. But that's a keynote. So I'm not a teacher, so I don't have to be, I don't even have to be cognizant of that. I'm just going to do it the way I do it. But in a classroom, one has to be acutely cognizant of the strategies that are being used because of the diversity of the students in the classroom. Are my instructional strategies conducive to my students having a willingness to soar? Let's go to the next one. Do my lessons consider all of my students? Said differently, does my lesson planning consider all of my students? So in other words, do I have a bell-shaped curve and I'm writing for the peak, the apex of the curve? Or am I teaching for everybody? And consider that some youngsters are here, some are here, some are here, some are here. Have I considered every learner? Said differently, and here's the word equity, because that's really what I'm talking about. Have I considered in my lesson planning the individuality of every student in the classroom? The student individuality, student cultural identity, and student voice. Those are my 3 equity non-negotiables. Have I considered each student? So in other words, I can distinguish 2 words. Do I use an each approach or do I use an all approach? The all approach just says it's all of them. See, so I'm getting ready to give it to you like this, like I'm doing today, right? This is definitely an all, because we're not in a room together. I see you, we're engaging. It's a virtual presentation, right? You can't, it's hard to do it each virtually, especially when y'all got them cameras off like that, right? So see, the each, that's who you and I have to be when we develop lesson plans. The each is who you and I have to be when we're talking about instruction in the classroom. We can't be all, because when we're all, individuals get lost. Each gets lost when we talk about all, right? So that's why I don't use all, I say each of the learners. That's crucial. Let me see I got something in this chat. What we got here? Can you say the 3? Oh yeah. My 3 equity non-negotiables from Wendy. They are Chalmers. They are student individuality, student cultural identity, and student voice, with quotation marks around the word voice, because I'm using that a couple of different ways. Now, Wendy, I'm a little upset by the fact that I can't elaborate on the three because that would be a whole other presentation. But I will say this quick shameless plug. My newest book is called The Equity in Social Justice Education 50, ASCD's hottest book. You can get it. You can order that wherever you get your books from, Amazon, Barnes and Noble, ASCD, or you can go to principalkafele.com. It'll link you to ASCD or Amazon.com, right? And all of that discussion on those three and more, they're all in that book, right? So get your hands on that. Let me keep going. In what ways do I hold myself accountable for the academic success of my students? So here I'm talking about self-accountability. When students are underperforming, when students are failing, when students are below average, when students are not where you conceptualize that they would be, where are you pointing the finger? That's what that question's asking. Are you able to look within yourself and say, I've got something I need to be doing differently? Or are you looking at that youngster and saying that youngster is not focused, that youngster is not serious, that youngster is not prepared, that youngster doesn't have the support at home, the reinforcement's not there. You know, all these different kind of excuses, as opposed to what adjustment do I need to make? Where do I need to shift? Right? So let me keep it moving. I was getting ready to share something with you, but I looked, man, minute hand saying don't do it. Matter of fact, you know something? I'm talking to a professional audience right now. Let me share this with you. I want to share it with you. I just said to Wendy, I gave her a book title, and actually I guess you could say I gave 181 people my book, the newest book title, right? And a thought triggered when I said the name of the book because of the word equity. And it's interesting. At my core, I want you to hear me well. This may be the most significant thing I say today. At my core of existence as an educator is equity. It's who I am. If my name had a definition next to it, equity would be a part of that definition. You can't talk the fullness of Principal Kafele without that word equity. But here's the problem. Let me give you a definition of equity before I give you the problem. Equity means meeting, in terms of school, meeting young people where they are, as they are. Let me give you that again. Meeting young people where they are, as they are. There's no racial connotation. There's no cultural connotation. There's no ethnic connotation. There's no sexual orientation connotation. There's no socioeconomic connotation. There's no special needs connotation. There's no gender connotation. There's nothing. There's no connotation. Equity means meeting young people where they are, as they are. You're educators. Your eyes are wide open. You've seen what's happened to this word equity. It has become a political word. And it's being literally legislated out of classrooms in so many places under this umbrella called critical race theory, whatever that means, right? It's never been one of my fights. So now I'm doing this breakout yesterday, and the teacher said to me, it was a counselor presentation. It was all school counselors association, Illinois chapter. And the counselor said, Principal Kafele, with today's political climate, how are you maneuvering with the word equity? And I said, wow, I've never been asked that question. But the question is so valid that I said to all the people in the breakout, with all due respect, I need a favor from you. You came here for me to speak on a particular topic. I would rather spend the 45 minutes answering her question. Are you guys willing to stay here and listen to my answer? They said, absolutely. So for 45 minutes, I responded to her question. Equity. Let's look at this final bullet point, not final, but the one that's at the bottom. In what ways do I hold myself accountable for the academic success of my students? That's an equity question, because the students are different. How do you legislate this word out of education? Legislating that word out means that now we can't be about each anymore. It's about all, because equity is each, equality is all. And equality-oriented strategies, hear me well, somebody. If equality is your strategy, your kids are doomed before the lesson is complete. There's no such thing as a strategy of equality. Equality can only be the goal. Equity is the strategy, because no two students are alike. Man, look at this minute hand moving on. You guys probably see I took the subtopics and turned it into my presentation, but that's okay, because what I'm doing is I've been going into all the subtopics, into all the meat of the subtopics by staying on the subtopics. I didn't shortchange you. So just bear that in mind. How are we going to reach our destination? In other words, I'm asking you about the strategy. How are you going to get there? And what is the vision? See, we're talking about how you inspire classroom excellence. Well, if I'm going to inspire classroom excellence, I got to have a blueprint. I got to have a plan of attack. How am I going to get there? What's my plan? What's my strategy? What's my blueprint? And how do I define there? Like I said, how am I going to get there? Well, what is there? How are we going to reach our destination? What is the destination? You got to define it. That's like going into a school and asking people, what's the vision statement of your school? And everybody says, I don't know. I was in a district 2 days ago. I won't tell you where I was, but 2 days ago, I said to the folks, what's your vision? They said, I don't know. Right? So if this was the leadership of the district, I don't know. Nobody knew. I had all the principals from the district. So somebody jump in here. I said, one of you principals of one of these schools, what's your vision at the school? What's the vision statement? So I mean, you have no vision. You're not going anywhere. You just exist. What's the mission statement? We don't have one. Well, no wonder you're doing so poorly. You don't have a mission, which means you haven't determined who and what you are. You don't have a vision, which means you haven't determined where you're going. That destination is abstract. It doesn't exist. It's just we're in school, so we're just doing what school people do. Teachers are theoretically teaching and children are theoretically learning. Unacceptable. Not good enough. Let me go to this last one, y'all. What is the evidence that I am growing as a classroom teacher? In other words, what this one is asking you is, how serious, how earnest are you about your own professional growth and development? How are you going to inspire if you're not growing simultaneously? Because if you're using strategy to inspire a student that you inspired before the pandemic, that might not work today. If you're using strategies that you used 10 years ago, that might not work today, because the world has shifted. I don't know about you, but I am not the person I was 10 years ago. I look at myself and all these photos that people take. My wife hates when I say this, but people take a lot of pictures of me when I'm speaking, and I see them online. I say, man, you starting to look old, buddy. I say, the white hair, and then I'm very conscious of how I walk, and I say, man, I feel like I'm starting to walk like I'm getting old, right? So I'm not the same guy. I don't move the same way, right? So I'm saying to you, you have to grow. You're not the same person. Your children are not the same people. So you've got to grow professionally in what you do. Now it's getting late, right? I wish I had you guys for at least 6 more hours, but let me give you this. I got something I want to give you. Where is it? Okay. Bear with me a second. I want to get out of this share real quick, and I want to bring a different presentation up, and I'm gonna do this very quickly, very quickly. Here we are. I got it right here. Got it. I got it. Bear with me. Bringing it right up. I'm almost there. I'm almost there. Here we go. Here we go. Let's bring it now. Let me share it. Hit that share button, and we'll be good to go. Where is it? Here it is. Here it is. Here it is. I got it. I got it. Share. All right. Now, I want to close out this way. Let me give you the full screen. Let me get rid of this here. Here we go. Let me give you okay. It says, when you see the face of this student, who and what do you see? Another way of saying that is, if this student entered your classroom, what would you do? Let me describe the student to you. This is an older student, but you can take what I give you and transfer it. And I'm gonna end on this. I'm 18 years old and I'm completely lost. I'm in my 5th year of high school with a 1.5 GPA. So this is a student that is not inspired. I'm currently attending my 4th high school. So all sorts of issues from going from school to school to school. I've lost my focus, my drive, my ambition, and my purpose. I've stopped believing in my ability to be successful. School has lost its relevance for me. I don't believe there's an adult in my school who cares about my plight. My counselor even informed me that I never amount to anything. His words didn't faze me. So again, we're talking about a very uninspired young person. What if this youngster walked into your classroom? When you see this youngster, who do you see in terms of the words that I've given you? I'm in love with all that the streets have to offer. That's saying a lot. And he ended it by saying, hey, teacher, don't quit on me, though. I'm closing, y'all. I see what time it is. Let's put a face to this. Take a look at that young man, and then take a look at me and see if you see the resemblance. I'm closing out by saying to you, that's my story, right? Yeah, I've written 12 bestsellers. Yeah, I have over 150 awards in education. Yeah, I'm in the National Alliance of Black School Educators Hall of Fame. Yeah, I'm in the city of East Orange Hall of Fame, New Jersey. Yeah, the city of Dickinson, Texas proclaimed February 8th, 1998, Baruti Kafele Day. Yeah, I've done this and I've done that, turned around 4 schools. But you know something, folks? That's my story. I'm a high school dropout. I dropped out and quit. And got put out of the school in the same year. Dropped out of one and quit the other one, right? So, that's my story. The streets. Just to let your imagination run wild about what young people do in the streets, that's my story. But I share that with you to say, but something, I don't have time to get into it now. Get that book, The Equity and Social Justice Education 50. Something inspired me. And here I am today. In what ways does your practice inspire classroom excellence? So we don't need that. Let me give you my contact information. I'm sure there's somebody on here that wants to stay in touch with me. So let me give you that right now. And here we are. You see the books on the bottom, real quick, y'all, because I know you got to go to the next session. But if I was worth your while, here's good news. I'm on live every Saturday morning at 10:55 Eastern time. It says 11. I come on 5 minutes early to do shout outs. It's called the Virtual AP Leadership Academy. It started as something that I was going to do for 18 weeks during stay at home, just talking to assistant principals about giving them my insights on how to be an effective assistant principal. But it caught on with not just assistant principals, but it caught on with people across the spectrum of education worldwide, and people who are not in education. So I didn't stop after 18 weeks. I'm going into week 80 this Saturday consecutively. I never stopped. I just do it every Saturday, and I'm on the road a lot. So when I'm on the road, I do it in front of live audiences or I do it in hotel rooms. But I haven't taken a break from this. So join me, go to my Twitter page at Principal Kafele, follow me there and join me this Saturday, or go to my Facebook page at Principal Kafele, hit the follow button, not the friend button, but the follow button, because I maxed out with friends. And you're in, you can watch it there. You can go to my Virtual AP Leadership Academy Facebook page, which you see the spelling, the writing there. You can follow that, like and follow. You can watch there, or you can go to my YouTube channel at Virtual AP Leadership Academy. Subscribe to that. And then while you're there, scroll through the topics. There's 79 topics there, and I'm sure there's a whole lot of topics there that many of you could benefit from. So feel free to go there. So, but most importantly, join me live on Saturdays. But if you can't join me live at that time, then just watch the recording, either on any of those Facebook, those social media platforms, or you can watch it watch it later on YouTube. It doesn't matter. I just want you to see them. But it's always nice when I got the folks on live, because I like to shout you out while you're there. Jessica said your message needs to be heard by everyone that impacts a child in school. I appreciate that. Wendy, thank you for the and I'm seeing all the thank yous and thank yous and thank yous. So I appreciate all of you. Jeff said you inspire me. I'm very pleased to have been listening for the last hour. Jeff, all your words, you matter to me. I know I'm going over time reading these to you, so I need to get off of here. But I appreciate you all. I'm glad the hour was worth your while. And come on with me on Saturday. I'm a little looser on Saturday because it's not, I'm on the client's platform right now, but on Saturday, I'm on my platform. We get a little looser on Saturday. So come join me on Saturday. I'm going to be looking for you. I'm going to be waiting for you. I'll be sitting right here, right after getting off of a long flight from Los Angeles, but that's okay. I'm going to be bringing the fire. So I will see you on Saturday. And to the rest of us, to the organizers, appreciate the opportunity to spend an hour here today. Hope my time here was beneficial for all of the group that's here. I turn it back over to you guys.